Ever since coming back from his knee injuries, Markelle Fultz has been playing very well for the Orlando Magic. In this small sample size that we've seen Markelle play so far, he isn't necessarily putting up crazy individual numbers, but he's just playing a very efficient brand of NBA basketball so far, and it's great to see him back out there on the court. But quickly before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionated NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic.
After Markelle Fultz was drafted with the #1 overall selection in the 2017 NBA draft by the Philadelphia 76ers, his career has certainly went through some ups and downs. In Philadelphia, Markelle was certainly seen as a draft bust at the time, but ever since getting traded to the Orlando Magic, he's found himself somewhat of a nice home in Orlando. But unfortunately for Markelle, once he started playing better NBA basketball in Orlando, he unfortunately went down with a knee injury back in the 2020-2021 NBA season in a game against the Cavaliers that held him out for a little over a season. And this was especially disappointing for Markelle because of all the injuries that he was going through in Philadelphia, especially shoulder injury, and on top of that, all the bad play and the pressure of being the #1 overall pick. And finally, once he started to feel like he was figuring things out in Orlando, he went down with another injury. And in the position that Markelle was in, a lot of players may have given up in that situation. But the great thing about Markelle is not only did he not give up, but he continued to work very hard to come back from his injury and also worked very hard on his game before he got back on the NBA court recently. And as I mentioned before in the video, in the relatively small sample size that Markelle has been playing so far this season, I think he's playing at a relatively high level. Now, of course, he's not putting up crazy numbers, but when you actually look at the minutes per game that he's playing, he's only averaging around 17 minutes per game so far in the season. And the reason why Markelle is getting those limited minutes is because the Magic are slowly trying to work him back after he was out for 14 months with that knee injury. And I would expect his minutes to progressively go up as the season progresses and as Markelle starts to feel more comfortable on that knee. And on top of the limited minutes that Markelle has been getting this season, he's also not playing back-to-backs, which of course makes sense, but the point that I'm trying to make about this is, at least in my opinion, once Markelle starts playing more minutes for the Magic, I think his numbers would match the level of play that he's showing. And of course, I don't think Markelle is playing at an all-star level or anything, I just think he's playing at a higher level than his numbers would suggest. But now let's quickly look at Markelle's game point by point to really describe why I think Markelle is playing at a decently high level so far. Now, starting off with Markelle's three-point shooting ability, I think everybody knows at this point that Markelle can't shoot that three-point shot, and on his career, he's only shooting around 25% from three, which is of course atrocious. But the good thing about it is Markelle knows he can't shoot that three-point shot and barely takes any threes. But now talking about his mid-range shooting ability, this is certainly something that Markelle has improved significantly ever since getting into the NBA. And at this point, Markelle actually has a very nice pull-up mid-range jump shot, as well as a really nice post-turnaround fadeaway within his game, where he utilizes his athleticism as well as his crazy wingspan to get that nice little shot over whatever defender's guarding him. And of course, he has the ability to catch and shoot from that mid-range area, of course can cross over into a mid-range jump shot, sidestep, and step back. But basically from that mid-range, Markelle is actually a very good shooter from that area. But now talking about his driving and finishing ability, I think it's pretty clear that this is his best ability of his game. Of course, he has a decent floater within his game, which I mentioned in a lot of my videos, but basically every single point guard / any player that runs a pick and roll or pick and pop always needs to have that floater within their game, because there's always a ton of opportunities and openings in the defense for you to easily put up a nice floater. So Markelle certainly has that ability within his game and at a decent level as well. But once driving all the way to the basket, Markelle has a nice ability to finish around whatever defenders in the paint with crafty layups, either his left or right hand. And of course, as I mentioned before, due to that crazy wingspan that just helps him out even more once driving all the way to the basket to prevent other defenders from blocking his shots. And of course, Markelle is also decently athletic and certainly has the ability to post drive some players at times, and we certainly have seen that from time to time. Although he doesn't necessarily do it all that often, he certainly has the ability to do so. But overall, I certainly do think that Markelle's driving and finishing ability is a best ability within his game, and I think he does it at a pretty high level. But now talking about Markelle's passing and playmaking ability, this is always an area of his game that he excelled upon. Basically, ever since Markelle started playing basketball, he was always known as one of the better players in terms of their passing passing and playmaking ability. And even in the limited minutes that he's getting now this season with the Orlando Magic, he's still doing a fantastic job at running the offense and basically getting his teammates easy shots and making their lives a lot easier. And one of the reasons why I think Markelle can be and has shown the ability to be a decently high-level starter in the NBA is because of his passing and playmaking ability, on top of some other things as well, of course, but his passing and playmaking ability is very important for a starting point guard, and it's pretty clear that Markelle has a very good ability from that area. But the great thing about Markelle is not only is he pretty good offensively, but he's also a pretty good defender as well. That fantastic wingspan alongside with that pretty good athleticism really does him well in terms of that defensive ability, especially when he's playing on-ball defense as well as playing off-ball defense, in the sense that he could use that wingspan to play the passing lanes and get some poke steals that way. And overall, I would say Markelle is a pretty good defender in the NBA. But now, what are my personal expectations for Markelle, not only the rest of this season, but also long term? Now, I think it's pretty clear at this point that Markelle is not going to live up to the expectations that he originally got when he was drafted with the #1 overall selection, which were people were expecting Markelle to be a superstar level player, or at the very least a high level all-star type guy. I think it's pretty clear he's not going to live up to those expectations. But although he's not going to live up to those crazy expectations, and I guess you can list him as an NBA draft bust because of the place that he was drafted, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a bad player in the NBA by any means. But what I'm expecting to see from Markelle, at least for the rest of this season, would be to continue to play at the level that he's already been playing this season so far, and assuming that his minutes per game do increase progressively, I would like to see his numbers increase progressively as well. But for the most part, for the rest of this season, I'm not necessarily expecting all that much from Markelle. The biggest thing that I want to see from him is just to continue to get back into basketball shape, and most importantly, feel more comfortable on that knee, so once he goes into next season, he would feel a lot more confident. But now talking about what my expectations would be for Markelle long term, I would expect Markelle at the very least to be a very good starting level point guard, which I certainly think he's not all that far off from at this point, and I think in the past he certainly showed the ability to do so. And in terms of his individual scoring ability, I certainly would like to see Markelle improve certain areas, especially his three-point shooting ability. Now, of course, Markelle doesn't necessarily need to become a good three-point shooter, but I would like to see Markelle at the very least become a serviceable three-point shooter, maybe in that range from 33 to 35% from three-point range, because at that point, whatever defenders guarding him would at the very least need to respect his three-point shot. And more so than anything else, it would help Markelle, but of course it would also help the rest of his team, because whenever Markelle's off ball, he would be a lot more useful because he could hit that catch and shoot three-point shot, and most importantly, he would spread out the floor a lot better. But even besides his three-point shot, of course I would like to see Markelle incorporate some new moves into his game as his career progresses, as well as from that mid-range area, I would like to see him improve that shot even better than it already is at this point. His driving and finishing ability as well, I would like to see that improve as the seasons progress even better than it is at this point as well. And overall, I would like to see Markelle just improve his game overall as the seasons progress. But we'll see what happens with Markelle Fultz going forward long term. I certainly am very excited to see where his career goes from here. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What are your personal expectations for Markelle long term? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these two videos popping up now. And until the next time, peace out, guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic. Hope you can't go where I'm headed.